Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. So, first of all, thanks for joining me, everybody. It's good to see you, everybody in the live chat. Um, I, I just want to start off on a note of I just want to keep things in perspective, and let's just remind everybody. I know that a lot of us, especially here in the United States, we've really had a good time the last couple of days dunking on Ted Cruz because he attempted to escape to Mexico. And then when people called him out on it, he had to come slinking back because, his home state of Texas that he represents in the United States Senate is going through a very horrible severe weather event. And lots of people are experiencing cold that they've never had to deal with before. And people are dying and people are suffering. And so what does Ted Cruz do? He flies off to Cancun. I know we've had a lot of fun dunking on Ted Cruz about that, jumping all over him for it, mocking him. And I just want to make sure that as we are doing that, we do not get so carried away that we lose sight of the fact that Rush Limbaugh is also dead, because that is something that should not be overshadowed by the dipshittery and dumbfuckery of Ted Cruz. That's still something that we can celebrate. We can and should celebrate. So I just want to start on that note. So thank you, everybody, once again for joining me. Um, and And I will be, as usual, if you are watching live and you have questions in the live chat that you want me to talk about, please hold on to them until I get through the patron questions, which I'm going to try to get through as quickly as possible. I had 31 patron questions this time, which I believe is a record. So I'm going to try to get through them as quickly as possible, while giving them the respect and the due consideration that they deserve, of course. And once I get through the patron questions, I will turn my full attention to the live chat and we'll spend the rest of the show, however long that ends up being, answering questions in the live chat. So let's go ahead and jump straight in to the patron questions, shall we? And the first patron question is from Michael Haneline, who says, so I think I owe an apology to comic book villains. From time to time, I watch the DC cartoons from the 90s and 2000s, Batman, Superman, Justice League, Teen Titans. Hey, it's still better than any other Titan show so far. Um, the other day, I rewatched the Batman episode where the Joker makes Batman stand trial, and the jury is all Batman's rogues gallery. And after the case is made, Batman's villains find him not guilty because of the evidence presented. And it occurred to me, holy shit, all this time I've been calling the GOP literal comic book villains, but literal comic book villains actually have more moral integrity. Mad Hatter, Poison Ivy, Killer Croc, Scarecrow, Riddler, and Harley Quinn would all be too fucking ethical to be GOP politicians. So this raises the question, which DC villains would you say would actually be evil enough to serve in Congress as GOP? I think the list might actually be pretty short. Lex. Yeah, I mean, Lex Luthor basically is a Republican, so he's top of the list. I would say Ra's al Ghul, but he has kind of an environmentalist streak. So I don't think he would be at home in the GOP. Like, even though he wants to kill people with his environmentalism, I still feel like being an environmentalist, even in a destructive extremist way, would make him unwelcome in the Republican Party. So I don't know if Race would necessarily be a good fit for the party. But yeah, Lex is definitely in there. Who else would be a good fit? Who else is a super villain who would be a good fit for yeah, some random geek in the live chat. Yeah, yes, Lex Luthor basically is Jeff Bezos or Joff Bezos, as Dana and I have agreed to refer to him from now on, Joff Bezos. Yeah, he's pretty much Lex Luthor in the flesh. But yeah, Lex is definitely at the top of the list. And I'm sure there are others that I can't think of at the moment, but yeah. Yeah. Next question is from Danny K. Hi, Steve. Picture yourself as a student at Enterprise D Elementary School, and it's Captain Picard Day. What would be your contribution to the festivities? Oh, I don't know, probably make him like a half-ass card, you know. I would be okay. So you know how I love Captain Picard, obviously, but I also love Commander Riker. And you ever see like the Mickey Mouse Club episode or the cartoon where you know they're singing the Mickey Mouse song. They're singing MICKEYMOUSE Mickey Mouse, and then the counterpoint is Donald coming in and yelling Donald Duck, Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck. Right? I would be the one singing Donald Duck because Donald Duck is way better than Mickey. I won't even say all due respect to Mickey. Donald's just way better than Mickey. Um, so I would make like a card or like a, you know, a doll or a painting or something for Commander Riker because I wouldn't want Commander Riker to feel left out of Captain Picard Day. So I would be the little contrarian shit who would be like, "What are you making for Captain Picard Day, Steve?" Picture Commander Riker. And if you know, and if the teacher gave me any shit about it, she'd get one of these. I'd be like, "I'm making a picture of Commander Riker. Just leave me alone." So yeah, that's what I would do. Eric Byers says, I'm curious if you've watched any of the recent non-Star Trek science fiction offerings available recently, such as The Expanse or For All Mankind. To me, the stories are interesting, well scripted, and the actors are great. I've heard really good things about both. I have not watched either one. People have been recommending The Expanse to me for a while, and I just haven't, you know, felt compelled to watch it. If I had Apple TV or Apple Plus, I guess, if I had that streaming service, I probably would have watched For All Mankind by now, but I don't subscribe to Apple Plus, and I guess the lure of For All Mankind has not been enough to get me to subscribe to it. So no, I have not seen either one of them, but they both look potentially interesting to me, especially For All Mankind. But haven't watched any of them yet. Tony Nagatani says, have you had the chance to rewatch Babylon 5 on HBO Max with the new digital remastering? If not, why not? And what are you waiting for? When more Babylon 5 videos? I have not watched any of it since it was added to HBO Max. I've seen a little bit. I've seen like a promo for it. I think maybe somebody put up a YouTube video that showed off like the how good the special effects look with the upscaling to HD and the remastering. It looks fantastic. Like it looks really, really good. They did a wonderful job fixing it up for HD to put it on HBO Max. But no, I have not watched any of it. And I mean, it'll probably be. I don't really feel in a rush to watch it. Like as I've said before, and as I think I said in the video I made a little while ago, a couple months ago, about Babylon 5 and Deep Space Nine. Like I really liked Babylon 5 when it was on. Like I watched it when it originally aired. I thought it was terrific. Really, really good show in a lot of different ways. Really well acted, really well written, just a wonderful show. But do I feel like I need to go back and watch it again? Not really. You know, it was a good show, but I mean, you know, like, no. I mean, nothing against Babylon 5, but it hasn't captured my imagination to the point where I was like, oh shit, Babylon 5 is on HBO Max. I got to go watch it. Like, no, no. So I'm not saying I'm not saying I'm not going to watch it or, you know, that I'm making a point to not watch it. I'm just not in a hurry to watch it. And I don't have, I mean, maybe after I watch some of it at some point, I'll have an idea for a Babylon 5 related video, but I have no idea when that will be or if that will ever be. But no, I have not watched it. But the remastering that I have seen examples of, it looks fantastic. Andrew Priest, good evening, my friend. Hope all is well. You're gonna think I'm an irredeemably evil, soulless, black-hearted monster, but I really like Snyder's DCEU movies. I think the reason why is that I always hated comic books, and Snyder's movies seem aimed at people who don't like superheroes. A weird move for a maker of superhero films, but I think it explains why they aren't better received. Tell you what, I dare you to try watching the Everything Great About Batman v Superman video on YouTube. That guy is so relentlessly optimistic it hurts. Anyway, on to my question. I've been loving Trek reluctantly. It's great watching someone react to DS9 for the first time and inevitably falling in love with it. I was wondering, though, are you still going to be watching Firefly in spite of the whole Joss Whedon is definitely an utter prick news that's been getting steadily worse since 2015? I'm not judging, but it is a tricky subject. Anyway, I love you, Steve. Take care. Yes, we are still going to watch Firefly. We addressed this a little bit this week because this week's Trek Reluctantly was a Firefly episode that Dana and I watched. And yeah, I have always said it's up to the individual viewer, and I would not and do not blame anybody who, in light of the recent Joss Whedon news, the Charisma Carpenter coming forward with her story that had been floating around for a while, but now she's sort of speaking out herself publicly, directly, and saying this is what happened. And other sort of writers and actors on the show coming forward and with similar stories or offering support or corroboration. If you have said, all right, to hell with Joss Whedon, I'm not watching any more of his stuff, and I'm not watching the old stuff. I'm washing my hands of Joss Whedon. Uh, I completely respect that, and I completely get that. I am going to finish watching Firefly because that's the show that we came up with, and I'm not. I mean, and honestly, Firefly and Babylon 5 are kind of in the same boat with me. Like I have enjoyed Firefly a lot, watching it for the show. After we get done watching it, I doubt I'll ever watch it again. I mean, unless it gets like really, really, really good in the last half of the season. Maybe it will. I don't know, but I would expect that we will finish watching Firefly for our show, and then and I'll say, "Oh, that was good," and then that'll be it. I mean, I'm not going to come back to it because I like it, but I don't like it so much that it's going to be like one of my favorite things ever. Um, but yeah, we're going to keep watching it as planned, and then we're going to move on to something else. But yeah, the Joss Whedon thing is definitely worth considering. And anybody who says, you know what, I'm out, I don't want to watch it anymore, that's completely understandable because yeah, he's a prick. He's the things that he is accused of doing, the things that I believe that he did, because I believe Charisma Carpenter's story, I believe Ray Fisher's story about his conduct on the Justice League set. Anyone who has done those sorts of things, there's no excuse for that. There's just no excuse for that. Um, so yeah, totally on board with people who don't want to watch Joss Whedon stuff anymore. But we are going to finish Firefly for our show. Lee, aka Radical Bacon, the right wing tradition of trying to overthrow lawfully elected Democratic presidents isn't new. FDR's New Deal was widely reviled at the time. One senator described it as tyranny, despotism, and the annihilation of liberty. One said FDR had not only signed the death warrant of capitalism, but the mutilation of the Constitution between FDR's election and inauguration. The Wall Street push was a genuine plot by right wing bankers to overthrow the president. The conspirators had several $1 million, a stockpile of weapons, and the support of a former Marine general. And they might have succeeded if Smedley Darlington Butler hadn't seen their plan, considered it treason, and reported it to Congress. No question, just some history. Yeah, and some very pertinent history given recent events. Thank you, Lee, for that little bit of history. Yeah, don't know if I don't know if I knew that story, to be honest. Before your question, no, I don't think I did. I knew about the Wall Street bombing from like 1920, but that was well before that. But I didn't know about this plot that you did. And I knew about the overreaction and the sort of absurd, like exaggeration of the Republican reaction to the New Deal. Like I knew about that. I knew that they were screaming bloody murder about the New Deal, but I did not know about that particular story about how there was actually a plot to overthrow FDR. That's really interesting. Meg says, hi again. I would love to know your opinion on this Star Trek sea shanty. And then there's a link to it. Have a great day. I watched it. I thought it was really, really delightful. I had a good time watching it. But the thing that it reminded me of the most was it made me realize that you remember that song by TLC, No Scrubs? You know, the chorus to that song fits just perfectly in the rhythm of a sea shanty. I never realized that until today when I watched that sea shanty, and the rhythm, the melody of that sea shanty made me think of that song, and I realized, oh shit, no, the chorus of No Scrubs could totally be a sea shanty. Have you ever thought about it? You know, like oh no, I don't want no scrubs. A scrub is a guy who can't get no love from me, sitting by the passenger's side of his best friend's ride, trying to holler at me. Like it's totally a sea shanty. um Andrew C. Hawkins, I've been listening to you and Dana go back and forth on the subject, and I'm wondering, is it possible to be agnostic on the question of statism versus anarchism? Because while I recognize that vertical power structures are ripe for abuse, the state exists, whether we accept it or not, and public policy has been used to help people. Also, maybe it's my lack of imagination, but I don't see how massive undertakings like the Apollo program would be possible without state power. Th- though there are those who argue that Apollo had a wasteful opportunity cost. As an aside, though I fancy myself a democratic socialist, I reckon it's better to say that I hold socialist views. When you say that you are something, it allows people to make their minds up about you without asking you any questions. That's a good point. And also, as I know from personal experience, there are a lot of people who do identify themselves as socialist who are quite fussy about the definition of socialism and who like what set of beliefs qualifies as socialism. I feel like there's sort of a more broad, like casual conception of socialism, and dedicated, like hardcore political socialists really bristle at that. They prefer a very sharp, clearly defined definition. So yeah, they might fuss at you if you declare yourself, if you say you are a socialist but you don't meet with their particular criterion of it. Um, I agree with you. The space program is one of the examples that I have cited with, when I talk to anarchist friends, when I say, like, look, I like having a government. I like having a state. I like the fact that our government sponsored and undertook a space program that allowed us to land people on the moon. Like, I think that is a phenomenal human achievement that I don't think would have been possible in an anarchistic society. I just don't. Um, but yeah, of course it's possible to be agnostic, and it's possible, as I try to do, to uh, to the greatest extent that I can, to acknowledge that there are some good ideas within anarchist thought. Anarchists talk about mutual aid, and mutual aid, I think, is a great thing that you can and should support, whether you are an anarchist or not. You know, the idea of direct action, the idea of, if there is a problem that can be solved by you or by a group of people directly, if you have the ability or the resources to address someone else's need yourselves without appealing to government or some intermediary organization, like, I think that's great. You should do that. But I also think there are problems that are too big to be solved in that way. And I think it's nice to have a government and a state with the resources, with the power, with the authority to address these problems. And can it be corrupted, and can it be misused? And is it misused in a horrible, harmful way on a daily basis? Yes, it is. But that doesn't mean we'd be better off without it. And that's sort of where I come down on it. But yeah, of course, it's possible to be agnostic about it. It's possible to not be sure whether having a state or not having a state is better, and it's possible to recognize that there are good things and bad things in either view, and in other views as well, that you can support without necessarily supporting the entire thing. You know. O'Hierno says, so how about we make this shutdown, lockdown a yearly thing, but without the dead people? Say July and August, we just completely shut down all non-essential businesses, enact travel restrictions, and pass a €2,000 per person monthly recurring stimulus bill. In June and September, essential business runs at half strength to give those workers also a chance to enjoy the shutdown. Because if COVID taught me anything, it's that capitalism and the rat race are optional. I actually kind of think that's a great idea. Just sort of like an annual government funded vacation for everybody, and just say, hey, you know what? Take a month off, take 2 months off. Here's a stipend to keep the lights on and pay your bills and just relax. You know what I mean? I think that's a great idea. That's yeah. And lockdown, shut down, lockdown without the dead people. I like that. I don't know if it would actually work. I have my doubts, but it's a great idea. Agent Meister, hi Steve. I hope this finds you well. I was wondering if you have ever heard of the Star Trek Fact Files. It was a weekly magazine that was published from 1996 to 2002, divided up into different sections, each of which concentrated on a different aspect of Star Trek. A guide to the Federation, starships, characters, technology, and episodes, movies. Every 16th issue would come with a binder that you could slot the different sections into. Basically, a hard copy of the memory alpha site, but solely from an in universe perspective. I remember only just liking Star Trek in a mass sort of way before I got the first issue, but after that, the appetite only grew with the eating, and the love I have for the franchise came from this publication. Do you remember it? And if not, what Star Trek media other than the TV shows and movies made a similar impression on you as the one I just described? As ever, keep up the great work. Stay safe, live long and prosper. Regards, Agent Meister in Ireland. I do not remember that. I know that I never got that magazine. I never no, and honestly, I'm kind of thinking about what Star Trek media other than the TV shows made a similar impression on me. I guess just books, because when I was still sort of coming of age in the 90s and even in the early 2000s, when I would have been in my 20s, I mean, I never really read Star Trek magazines. I never really visited Star Trek websites, except maybe here and there if there was a particular something that attracted my notice. Wasn't really a part, like an active part of the fan community. I guess it was just books. I read some Star Trek novels in the 90s when I was in middle school and high school, and I got a copy of the Star Trek Encyclopedia, which was this big paperback book that was like, an inch and a half thick or something, and that was really cool. But other than that, there really wasn't much. I mean, I had the TV shows, I had the movies. I wasn't even really into the comics back then. I think I had read the odd Star Trek comic here or there, but I wasn't really a devoted reader of them. I didn't get into Star Trek comics in a serious way until really just about 10 years ago. So no, there really wasn't a lot of tie-in media that made the kind of impression on me that you're describing as that magazine made on you. Like I said, just some of the books and some of the sort of ancillary materials, maybe. But other than that, not a whole lot. Some random geek, the far left radical anarcho syndicalist that Steve Shives is often talking about, even without naming them. Yeah, you're very smart. You're very smart boy. Alec Karakatsanis on Twitter posted this thread, which I will link in the chat. And there's the link to it. And I'm sure it's been linked in the chat already. Prisons are ending physical mail for prisoners. And companies wanting to make a profit have tablets at the ready to be sold to the prisons and prisoners, furthering their exploitation. Biden's administration seems to keep around a Trump pilot plan to end physical mail. Letters are one of the only affordable means for inmates to contact their loved ones. Phone calls have egregious fees associated with them, and postage is generally much more affordable. Even assuming this new service will not cost more, it is essentially isolating inmates. And let's remember, yes, the Biden administration is not renewing contracts with private prisons, but that is only 8.1% of incarcerated people. And there are still public prisons. And what about the current contracts with private? What about the current contracts with private prisons? What about ICE facilities? Not much of a question, I guess. What do you think? Well, I agree with you that prisoners being isolated is a problem. Whether it's writing letters or getting email or making phone calls or whatever, I don't think it's right to be charging prisoners for those things. I realize that a lot of public and private prisons, they have a system where the prisoners can work, they can do labor in the prison that either helps out with the upkeep of the prison, or in a lot of cases now generates revenue for the prison or for the state or for the company that is contracted, and the prisoners can keep some of that, and then they can use that to pay for things like phone calls or letters or emails or computer access or whatever. I don't really think that's right. I mean, I don't believe that prisons should necessarily be like palaces, should be incredibly luxurious places, but I don't really see why, all other things being equal, prisoners should be mistreated while they're serving their sentences. And I think erecting all of these additional barriers to allow them, to have contact with people on the outside, I think that's kind of a form of mistreatment. So whatever the form of communication is, I think it should be easier, less of a financial burden, certainly on prisoners, on incarcerated people, to be able to do that. So I think it's a problem. And unfortunately, I feel like that's really a minority opinion. And it's not about, coddling prisoners or treating them better than they deserve or whatever. It's just about establishing a baseline of this sort of simple, humane treatment. And as long as they're not a security risk, and as long as they're behaving themselves and they're not representing a danger to other prisoners or to the guards or anybody else, why shouldn't they be able to have regular communication with people on the outside without having to pay for it themselves? I mean, Christ, they're in prison, you know. So yeah, that's kind of what I think about it. Matthew Datcher says, a few days ago at a press conference after 45's second acquittal, Nancy Pelosi said, "I think our country needs a strong Republican Party. It's very important." Do you think this country needs a Republican Party at all, let alone a strong one? My response is that I don't give a four-letter word about the Republican Party, because that's the party that is systematically attempting to disenfranchise and harm my friends and I. For 2 decades, I've been hoping for the demise of the Republican Party, only for them to repeatedly get to the brink, only to come back stronger. What we need is a strong Democratic Party that is capable of accomplishing its promises. All of us know people who are desperate for the $1,400 relief check. Wait, wasn't that supposed to be $2,000 anyway, like 45 promised? I agree with you that I don't think we need a strong Republican Party. I think we should not have a one-party state. I don't think it would be ideal in the long run for the Democratic Party to be the only viable political party, but that doesn't mean that the other party has to be a right-wing party. I would be perfectly fine if the two major parties in the United States were the Democratic Party, more or less as it is now, and a more progressive party, like another major viable party that was capable of winning elections at state and national levels, that was further to the left than the Democratic Party usually is. And those were the two main parties. I think that would be terrific. And if people want to be further to the right, if like they're hardcore conservatives that can't stand either of those parties, let them go form their own fringe third party. Let the Republican Party shrink and become one of those. And it'll still be there, and they'll probably still have some representation. There'll still be enough people to win elections, but the two major parties would be the Democrats and the leftist party. And I mean, that's a two-party system. There's no reason that a two-party system has to have one of the parties as a right-wing party. I think it's really, really harmful and dangerous to have one of the major parties be a right-wing party, because as you point out in your question, right-wing policies are horrifying and hurt people and destroy people's lives. And I do not think it makes for a healthy political system to say, well, one of the two major parties has to be a right-wing party that is constantly trying to, cut taxes on the wealthy and destroy social programs and gut the welfare state and block poor people from having necessary benefits and keeping wages down and alienating us from our international allies and mistreating immigrants and mistreating LGBTQ people and upholding white supremacy and racial inequities in the justice system and all. Like, well, how is that good for democracy? How is any of that good for democracy? So yeah, two-party system, at least. More than two parties, fantastic. Viable right-wing parties, not fantastic. Not fantastic at all. Frau M says, "Hi, Steve. I don't know if you've already discussed this, so excuse me if it's redundant. In the last couple of weeks, allegations of sexual abuse and misbehavior toward Marilyn Manson and Joss Whedon were made, and it's not the first time this happens. H.P. Lovecraft was racist. J.K. Rowling probably is a TERF, etc. I don't want to discuss whether they're guilty or not. That's up to the jurisdiction. But I wonder how we as fans of any creations should deal with people like them. Is it possible to separate the work from the creator, or do we have to kill our idols?" Well, like I said about the earlier question about Joss Whedon, I think that's up to you. I think that's up to each individual consumer of that art, that each individual audience member. If you were a Harry Potter fan, and now that it's been established what a absolutely nightmarishly shitty person J.K. Rowling is, and you just don't want to have Harry Potter books or movies or whatever in your life anymore, I completely respect that. I completely respect that. You know, I was worried about how I would feel the first time I watched Superman Returns after not only the Bryan Singer allegations, but then also Kevin Spacey, and you can't get away from either of those two guys in Superman Returns because Singer directed it and Kevin Spacey plays Lex in it, so you can't, you know. And I watched it and I was okay, like I could see past it, I could separate the art from those particular artists and still enjoy it the way I used to, but that wasn't guaranteed. I mean, I may have had a different reaction. And if I had, that would have been fine. And I could have decided, okay, this is something that I used to love, but I don't enjoy this anymore. And I'm going to put this up on a shelf. You know, that's completely valid. If you are able to separate the art from the artist and that is something you think is worth doing, then do it and continue to enjoy the art, you know. But if you can't, that's okay too. That's okay too. Relic 5000. Hello from Canada. How goes it? This is my first Ask Away post. First, I'd like to say thank you for all you do. I'm a trucker, and your videos and live streams have helped while away many hundreds of miles of driving with my phone's screen off, safety first. Well, thank you for that. That is very reassuring. Here's my question. Sorry if it's been asked before. What is your favorite Federation starship class? My favorite is the Sovereign class. Ooh, that is a good question. Sovereign class is good. Sovereign class is like the Enterprise E. For people watching who maybe couldn't have that off the top of their head. Sovereign class is the Enterprise E, like from First Contact and Insurrection. My favorite class, we've talked about. What's the the science vessel? I can't think of the class name now. I'm sure somebody in the chat is going to say it in a minute, but um, I can't think of it. It's gone completely out of my head, but I really like the Constitution class refit from the Star Trek the Motion Picture up through Star Trek 6. Like the movie version of the Enterprise is one of my absolute favorite ships in the entire franchise. It might be the movie refit Enterprise might be my favorite ship. And I don't think it's Oberth class. I don't think it is Oberth class. Not the one I'm thinking of. If that's your favorite, great, but I don't think that's the one I'm thinking of. But Nova class, Lisa, thank you very much. Yes, Lisa got it. Nova class. I love the Nova class ships. I could see it, but I couldn't think of the name. Yeah, no, not Oberth class. Yeah, Lisa had it. It's Nova class. Anyway, yeah. So, but the refit, the movie refit Constitution class is probably my favorite. Although the Constitution class as depicted in Star Trek Discovery is right up there too. I've made no secret about the fact that I absolutely adore the inside and out. I love the look of the Enterprise that we see in Discovery, which is the same ship. It's you know, the Captain Pike, Captain Kirk TOS Enterprise. It's just depicted in the visual style of Discovery, and it's absolutely gorgeous. So that's pretty high on the list too. Blue Tree says, "Hi, Steve. My two rescue dogs have taken a liking to and seemingly adopted a fearless young cat that wandered into my yard. He's been living on my porch for a while, so I decided to keep him. But I need to give him a name. He's got black and white patches on his face, so I thought about calling him Domino, but then I thought it would be cool to name him Nog. What do you think of those names? And do you have any other suggestions? By the way, the Border Collie's name is Astro and the Blue Heeler's name is Cosmo. Thanks, and I hope you are well." Those are awesome dog names, Astro and Cosmo. I love those. Nog is pretty cool. I mean, Domino fits the naming pattern because the dogs have O names. So if the cat was named Domino, it kind of goes along with Astro and Cosmo. And plus Domino makes sense if he's a black and white cat. But Nog is cool too. I would vote for Domino just because I kind of like the consistency and sort of the symmetry of you know, Astro, Cosmo, Domino. But I mean, if Nog is calling to you, if you feel like that should be the better name, then go for that. You said that the cat's fearless, and I guess he must be if he wandered into a yard with two dogs. Nog was pretty fearless. Nog ended up being a very brave character, so maybe Nog is the most appropriate name for the cat. But if you're asking me, I would vote for Domino. But either one would be a terrific name. Frunobulax the Poodle. Hi, Steve. Forgive me if you've answered this in the past and I've missed it, but what do you dislike about Batman Begins? I think I've answered it before, but it's okay. I don't mind talking about it again. What I really, I'll tell you where the movie lost me when I saw it in the theater for the first time. I watched it in the theater for the first time, and it was okay. Like up until this point, I mean, it was fine. The origin story stuff, like Bruce in the mountains and going to the League of Shadows and getting his training from Ra's al Ghul or Raz al Ghul, as he's pronounced in that movie. That was all fine. I didn't think it was like outstanding, but I thought it was all right. It's like, this is okay. And it was, at least it felt different for a Batman movie, which was good. But then there's that scene where Mr. Earl, the CEO of Wayne Enterprises, is like in his office or in the boardroom, and the dude comes in to tell him that this top secret microwave weapon has been stolen. And it's at that point that the movie takes a turn, and it goes from being this, sort of okay, interesting character study about young Bruce Wayne into just totally goofy, typical superhero movie. And I just did not like that change. I don't think that switch worked for the movie. I thought the movie was a lot better up to that point. It was one of those cases where the movie was better before he actually put on the suit and became Batman. It just got goofy after that, and not goofy in a good way. Goofy in a way that still took itself seriously and expected you to like be super invested in what was happening, but was just goofy and corny and campy. And I was just sort of like, okay, whatever. Just kind of lost me. The Dark Knight fixed most of that. The Dark Knight corrected virtually all of those issues, and The Dark Knight is still one of my favorite superhero movies. The Dark Knight is fantastic. Batman Begins, I just find it kind of goofy and overrated. Lynn Kibblemom says, other than yourself, do the actors in the Stuffy and is in the Steven Stuffy / Stuffy and Friends series use their real names for their characters? In other words, is Stuffy his real name as well as the character name on the show? What about Hans or Jack or Toby? If those are their real names, what fortuitous casting? If not, what was the process for describing the characters in the audition? In the audition process, were the characters developed before their names were chosen? Inquiring minds and all that. Those are their real names. I'm trying to think who it was who said that it was a great, I think it was one of the great sort of new wave directors. I don't know if it was Truffaut or Godard, but there is a great, I'm pretty sure it was a new wave director in the 60s, and I can't remember who it was, but he said, everyone has within them the capability to give one truly great performance, and that is as themselves. And that was the mindset with the Stuffy characters, is that they were performing characters, yes, but they were performing themselves. So yes, Stuffy's name is actually Stuffy. Hans's name is actually Hans. Jack's name is actually Jack, etc., etc. And they were playing themselves. So that's how the characters were developed. They were playing themselves in the stories. What a great question. I mean, I kind of wish I had gone the other way with that and said like, oh, actually, Hans is some guy from New Jersey named Larry, and he just affects that German accent, and that's why it doesn't sound very good. I don't know, but I didn't do that. I did the other thing, and now that's canon, so you can't argue with that. Here's a question from Dana, who says, it seems like forever since the last fanfic live stream. I know you've talked about a Superman. Oh, boy. It's got like a dry patch in my throat. Sorry, Dana, nothing personal. I know you've talked about a Superman fic that you've been working on. Are you going to read that on a live stream? If so, when? Well, Dana, as if you didn't know, it just so happens that I had a great burst of creativity over this past weekend, and I actually finished that Superman story. I've been working on a Superman fic since like September, and I don't think I had touched it since sometime in September until last week. And I just wrote all through the weekend and finished it a few days ago. and I'm really happy with it. So I'm going to read it on a live stream next week. I'm going to read it on a live stream on Thursday, so a week from yesterday. I'll be reading it on a live stream, and I'm very very happy with it. I think it's long enough that it's probably going to be two live streams. I'll read the first half next week, and then I'll read the second half the week after that. But yeah, I'm really, really super happy with it. I went ahead and scheduled the live stream, but I privated it so that it wouldn't be, so that it wouldn't spoil the surprise of me announcing it tonight. But I'll go ahead after this live stream is over. I'll go ahead and set that upcoming one to public, and you can set a reminder or whatever if you want to join us while I read the Superman fanfic. But yeah, it's I'm very very happy about it. So thank you for that totally coincidental opportunity to plug the the fanfic live stream, Dana. I really appreciate it. Next question is from Carl Roberts, beautifulest one. Hey, Steve, I hope this note finds you and all of those you love well. I'm currently weaning myself away from a steady diet of the news, a long-standing habit that was exacerbated by the constant train wreck of the previous administration. Anyway, my partner and I finally watched and binged Lovecraft Country. Quite simply, it was breathtakingly brilliant, amazingly written, and superbly acted. Have you watched Lovecraft Country or intend to? And if you have, may I ask your thoughts on the program? As ever, surrounding you in love and light. Well, thank you as always for the kindness, my friend. I truly, truly appreciate it. I did watch Lovecraft Country. I thought it was terrific. I especially liked um, the episode with what was her name? Hippolyta, the mom character. The episode that that revolved around her and was sort of her being unstuck in time and sort of living pieces of different lives and sort of discovering who she was. That was absolute genius. That was such a great episode. And then the episode that was sort of the flashback to Tick in Korea, I thought was great too. I thought the whole series was good, but those two episodes in particular stood out to me as like absolutely fantastic. So yeah, and God, that opening scene, Jason told me about the opening scene, which turned out to be sort of Tick's like vision of fighting the monsters, and Jackie Robinson was there. And I mean, Jason told me about that, and I was like, okay, I gotta watch. I gotta watch just to see that, and that was fantastic. But yeah, those two episodes I mentioned, and that opening sort of prologue in the first episode, just really really good, really good. I thought it was a terrific show. General Contact Unit Problem Child. So apparently people keep telling Thomas Smith to listen to a show called Behind the Bastards, but he's reluctant to because the host, Robert Evans, is an anarchist. Thomas thinks anarchism is dumb and is reluctant to listen to someone who supports it. The last time he was streaming, Thomas streams on Twitch now, hint, hint, I said that I find it kind of annoying that he says anarchism is dumb, but also admits he hasn't read any anarchist theory. He responded with something to the effect of, no, I reject the idea that I have to study every ideology to know which is and isn't dumb. This is like when people told Richard Dawkins he had to look into each religion before rejecting them. Do you think there's a good reason to take that attitude to religions, but not to secular political ideologies? I don't know how to respond because I feel like the two are non-comparable, but I'm having trouble articulating why. Um, I mean, well, if you have a problem with a central tenet of the ideology, at least as far as you understand it, then I don't know if it's necessarily required to do a whole lot of study beyond that. Like I haven't heard Thomas talk about anarchism that much, or talk about what his particular problems with it are. Thomas and I have very similar views on a lot of stuff and sort of have a similar approach to things. So I would imagine his problems with it are not all that different from my own, which is that I am incredulous as to as to it actually being viable. I don't think it would actually work. I think the idea of a stateless society, of a governmentless society, I just don't think it works. And at least not in a good way, not in a way that would benefit the greatest number of people. I just don't see how that would work. And I suppose the argument could be made that, well, if you read more anarchist literature, people would make proposals for how it would work. But it's, I don't know. It is a little bit like, you know, if you don't believe that gods exist, or if you believe that the existence of gods is an incredibly remote possibility, so much so that you see no reason to assume that they exist, and then someone says, well, you just need to study more religion, you know, that's not a very persuasive argument. And if I say, look, I fundamentally reject the idea that a healthy, free, equal society with, good quality of life for people could exist without there being some kind of government or some kind of state or, something like that. And the response is, well, you just need to read more anarchism. I don't know if that would help. Like, my problem is with the fundamental concept of the ideology. Like, I just don't think that would work, you know? Um, so yeah, I feel like I'm kind of on Tom. I mean, and now I will say, if I don't know the show that is being discussed, I've never heard of Behind the Bastards. I don't. If the show itself is mostly centered on anarchism and talking about, anarchist stuff, uh, I probably wouldn't be interested in listening to it or watching it either. But if the host just happens to be an anarchist, but they talk about all kinds of stuff, that probably would not be a barrier to me. I wouldn't be unwilling to listen to somebody talk about anything if I knew every once in a while they would bring up anarchism. But if the show was like centered on anarchism itself, I mean, I probably wouldn't be interested in watching it either. Carlisle the Cinephile. Content warning: a brief mention of emotional and sexual abuse. So there we go. Hey, Steve, a few months ago, I told you the story of that friendship that ended after I went to his wedding. Well, since then, I've found myself missing him. I knew this person for 12 years, and it feels weird that he's gone from my life. I've been finding myself even considering reaching out to him and trying to restart our friendship. I admit that this may be due to trauma I've recently experienced. I recently got out of an emotionally and sexually abusive relationship, and I think I'm reaching for some semblance of normalcy by trying to recapture something familiar. But I fully admit that I do truly miss him sometimes, but I do remember that he's hurt me too. Is it worth it to try to reach out to him? Or do you think that will just cause more issues? Is that bridge burned? Also, don't worry, I'm speaking to a real therapist now, so I won't be dumping all my problems on you anymore. Well, that's good for you. That's not just to my benefit. That's good for you because I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. But I appreciate you trusting me enough to come to me with these sorts of things. But I'm very glad that you're talking to a professional about these problems, for your own sake. Since the relationship was abusive, I would caution you against reaching out to him. If this was a relationship, be it a friendship or like a romantic relationship or whatever, if it was a relationship that ended and maybe even ended on not the best terms, but the relationship itself was not like an unhealthy relationship, like I might say, you know what, reach out to them, see how they're doing, see if you can reconnect, see if there's still something there, see if you can be friends again, whatever. But the relationship that you described to me, and you sort of, you describe it this way yourself, it was not a good relationship. This friend of yours did not treat you very well, and there were reasons why you decided not to be his friend anymore, you know. So I would caution you against reaching back out to him. I'm not going to say, obviously, it's your life. I'm not going to say, no, absolutely don't do it. But remember that this isn't just the sort of thing where, you had a falling out right at the end and you kind of, there's some bitterness, but now you're over that. And you want to, come back into each other's lives and you want to restart your friendship. Like, it doesn't sound like it's that kind of situation. It sounded like it was an abusive, shitty friendship and you ended it for very legitimate reasons. And I would caution you against reaching back out and trying to restart that. But, it's your life, it's your choice, and hopefully your real therapist can help you out with that too. But that would be my instinct, is to warn you off of that, because the overall nature of the friendship seems to have been very, very negative. CMAX says, would love your take on the utter implosion of the Lincoln Project. Part of me wants to be happy that our allies of convenience have become ineffectual and we can be righteously rid of them. However, they also represented the, if not decent, at least rational arm of the GOP. With most of the GOP still enthralled to the former guy, I guess the practical side of me would have liked LP to stick around long enough to clean house more, but then they're still Republicans. They'd clean house with a shit sponge. So, well, yeah, I think that's pretty much it exactly. They would clean house, but what are they really the people? Is it a house that deserves to even be cleaned? Would we be better cleaning up the house, or would we be better just saying, you know what, that's a fucked up house. That's a house of shit. Let's just stop worrying about what goes on in that house. Forget about that house. Let's take care of these other houses over here. And the people that live in that house can fuck with that house, you know? I think it's question how much. I mean, yes, I suppose we can say that they represented the more rational arm of the GOP, but I mean, did they really clean house at all? I mean, how much of an effect did the Lincoln Project actually have on the outcome of the election or on changing the character of the Republican Party? Like, you know, I don't know if they really were that effective uh in the first place in terms of like the election result or something like that. Um, so, but yeah, I don't know. But the metaphor of they would clean house with a shit sponge, I think, is quite apt. Eric Allen, Lord of Allentown. I am glad you went there and claimed your throne, my friend. I'm very, very glad indeed. All right, Steve, off the wall question here, but who do you think talks shit better, Fred Sanford or Al Bundy? Both characters are top notch, and while I absolutely love Fred Sanford, I believe Al, 4 touchdowns in one game, Bundy takes the trophy. His quick wit and utter savagery is unmatched. Anyway, hope all is well, and I truly appreciate the wonderful friends and community I've gained through your channel. Cheers, my friend. Well, that really makes my heart feel good. Thank you for saying that last bit. That I'm glad that you have benefited from watching my stuff and meeting other people through that. That's fantastic. I have to agree with you. I think I would probably give it to Al too. Not and for because from what I can remember, Al Bundy's put downs were a little more varied than Fred. Fred seemed to sort of fall into a pattern and sort of just made like he made fun of people for the same thing over and over again and used similar jokes and similar insults. Like who was it? Was it Aunt Esther? He would always make fun of her for being ugly, and some of those were pretty funny. Like he said, there's one time he said, like you're so ugly you could put your face in the dough and make gorilla cookies. There was another time when he was faking having a heart attack, and then Esther was there and she like bent over to check on him, and he looked up at her and he went, "Oh, I'm coming to join you, Elizabeth. It was an overdose of ugly," but it was the same thing. He's making fun of her for being ugly like over and over and over and over again. Whereas I think, to the best of my recollection, and it's been a long time since I watched Married with Children, but to the best of my recollection, Al had at least a little bit more variety in his insults than Fred had. But yeah, both top notch characters for sure. Isaiah Taylor says, "So I have good news. I registered for a trip to space. I registered for a chance to win a ride on the Inspiration 4 through St. Jude's. The crew selection is in a few days, but wish me luck. I know I don't have a chance in hell, but wish me luck. Also, my professors admire my stamina and my hard work despite the obstacles in life history. I graduate in September. I also plan on buying a van with my stimulus check, and I may take out a student loan in order to have a cushion of savings so I can move out of Tallahassee and move to Tampa to find work in my filming/space or whatever career. I'm also making a YouTube true crime horror video channel, and I'm waiting for my 1993 Playmates tricorder LEDs and electronics to come in from Canada. Yay, Avril Lavigne. Not a question, just a life update. Hopefully things are turning around for me. What do you think? Thoughts, advice, PS, yay for Perseverance and Mars." Yeah, boy, that was cool, wasn't it? The Perseverance landing on Mars. And all I have to say is what you asked me to wish you at the beginning of your question, my friend, which is good luck. I wish nothing but the best for you. That is really, really, really exciting. Good luck with getting on the space flight, which, okay, you say you don't have a chance in hell, but I wish you luck on that anyway. Good luck with finishing school and moving and all of that. I mean, and I know you're gonna keep us updated, but that's all fantastic news. And it's really super exciting. And I'm so thrilled for you and happy that you chose to share that with us. I think it's terrific. Um, and yeah, I mean, I don't know. My advice is to just keep on uh, living your life the best way you can. Keep being yourself and going after things that matter to you and doing what you have to do, what you're able to do to live the life that you think you need to live, man. That's it. That's it. I mean, life is short. We're only here once. If find ways to do what you feel called to do. Find ways to grab the life that you want, and I know it's not that easy. There are way too many obstacles erected in front of people that stop us from getting to the life we want. But if you can find a way around those obstacles, uh, go for it. Like go, life is too short. So, you know, live for your dreams as much as you possibly can. I think that's all great news. And I'm super excited about that for you. It's fantastic. Um, Angus says, so finally caught up on Picard. So that is only a year late. Random thoughts. Pacing was off, with the first half taking too much time. Best episode was clearly Nepenthe. Troy wasn't wasted. Icheb was wasted instantly to Motive 7 of 9, which was for me annoying, and I was annoyed at Hugh's fate too. Main thought, though, too many potential plot points. For example, the Borg cube was wasted being relegated to a subplot location, but overall I enjoyed it. Anyway, my question is, what would you like to see from Picard Season 2? Probably similar things to what you want to see from Picard Season 2, because it sounds like we have very similar opinions. I agree with pretty much everything you just said there. I mean, apparently Guinan is going to be in it, so I'm curious to see Guinan again. There have been rumors, I don't think confirmed yet, but very strongly circulated rumors that we might get to see Worf, which I'm really excited about because I love Worf. But other than that, I don't. What would I like to see from Picard Season 2? I don't know. I would really like to see that crew, the La Serena crew, the gang that was on the ship at the end of the last episode, just see them get pulled into another adventure. Like, I don't know what that adventure would be. I don't think it necessarily has to be fate of the galaxy hangs in the balance important. I think it can just be something that they get involved with that takes them, across the galaxy or across the quadrant or whatever for however many, 9 or 10 episodes, and they just have an adventure together with Captain Picard in the lead, as sort of the elder statesman advisor type character, and I'm totally on board with that. Whatever it is, I just like the idea of, just tell me an adventure story with these characters. That's what I would want to see. I have no idea about specifics, plot points, whatever. I'm open to it, and I'm definitely going to be watching. But yeah, I'm glad you mostly liked it. It sounds like we had very similar feelings about it. David Colby. So I couldn't write this question for most of the week due to dealing with repetitive stress injury, aka carpal tunnel and similar nastiness. So I'm very sorry to hear about that, my friend. It's just the worst. I wish I could chop my arms off and replace them with robot arms, which would be able to just type all the time without having to worry about this kind of thing. Which parts of your body do you want to replace with gleaming chrome when the time comes to transcend your human form? I would love to replace my teeth with something permanent and indestructible. And I actually have pretty good teeth. Like, I'm very fortunate. My teeth they're in really good shape. They've never given me any serious problems at all. But, what is the deal with teeth? Why are they like this? Why are they so easy to break? Why are they so painful when something goes wrong with them? Why do they fucking rot? Like, can we do something about this? They're like a ticking time bomb. I have 30-something ticking time bombs in my mouth. I know eventually, as I get older and more decrepit, that shit's going to start going wrong with them. It's inevitable. So I would replace my teeth with something absolutely indestructible. And I realize I could do that now if I had tens of thousands of dollars to do it, which I don't. But yeah, I don't know if I'd want my teeth to be chrome. That might be a little ostentatious. Maybe it's kind of a matte finish, But yeah, something with the teeth for sure. Jacob Monroe says, hello, Steve. No question this time. A tornado hit Brunswick County, North Carolina earlier this week. I'm fine, but I have a friend whose home was hit and they need some help with the repairs. If it's not too much to ask, could you help share this link to the GoFundMe? And there's the link there on screen. And also, that GoFundMe is linked in the description of this video. So please, if you can, I always shout out charity links at the end of the video, and I'll do that again when we get to the end of the show. The charity links doc that some random geek is kind enough to curate for us, but also by special request, the GoFundMe for Jacob's friend is linked in the description at the very top of the description box. So yeah, if you can help out with that at all, please do so. The link is in the description, and I would encourage you to go and donate to help out Jacob's friend. And Jacob, I hope that your friend gets the help that they need to recover from the tornado. John Burns says, I'm sorry, but I can't just ask one question. I have to ask more than one, but I believe they're all related. The Republicans will move on from the events of January 6, 2021 faster than Ted Cruz will move on from the current freeze in Texas. These are my questions. They all relate to that incident. First of all, will Trump pay the legal costs of everyone who participated? Second of all, if Trump does run again and wins the nomination of the Republican Party, stop laughing, Steve, would Pence be his I said stop laughing, Steve, running mate in 2024? More importantly, how many times will Trump be called to testify at these upcoming criminal trials? And there will be more than simple felonies. Sedition trials are also being considered, unless Biden decides to give out pardons. I wasn't sure how to put all these questions into one, so I had to go this way. I'm sorry, but now that you've had time to compose yourself, now that I've handed you a tissue, dab your eyes, what do you say? I think Pence is definitely not going to be his running mate if he runs again. I don't think he's going to run again because I think he'll be dead by 2024, but we may not be that lucky. Yeah, no, he's not. I mean, I like the running gag of, stop laughing, Steve, because yeah, I think you nail the absurdity of these questions very, very well. I don't think he's going to pay anybody's legal costs. I don't think he's going to run with Pence as his running mate. I don't think he's probably going to be called as a witness at the trials. He should be. He should be on trial. But no, I don't think he's going to be called as a witness in any trials. But yeah, sure would be nice if any or all of those things would happen, right? I mean, I don't give a fuck about, I don't give a fuck about whether or not he runs for president with Pence again. But I mean, he did incite those dipshits to go storm the Capitol. So, I mean, the least he could do is get him a lawyer, right? And honestly, think about how shitty. Okay, here's why Trump should pay the legal fees of every piece of shit who stormed the Capitol, because you know that the lawyers Trump will hire will be the worst, most incompetent lawyers possible. And those will be the incompetent representation that those insurrectionists will have in court. So they're all guaranteed to go to prison for the rest of their fucking lives. It'll be great. So I would love for Trump to pay for their legal fees. Eric Pazlik. Hi, Steve. I know DS9 is your favorite Star Trek series. It is mine as well. I don't recall, however, whether or not you ever said if you had seen the DS9 documentary, What We Left Behind. I was lucky enough to see it in the theater on its one-day public release, and it was truly an awesome experience. The interviews were very enlightening and touching, and it was fascinating to recall that in DS9's early years that it got as much and the same type of hate that Discovery now receives. But most intriguing for me was the Season 8, Episode 1 that the original writer's room came up with, along with the continuing and potentially controversial ideas for the rest of the season. My question is, have you in fact seen the documentary? And if so, what did you think of it and the proposed Season 8? I did see the documentary. I was actually a backer of it. I think I can't remember what platform they used, if it was GoFundMe or what, but or Indiegogo or something, but I donated to the crowdfunding for it. I don't think I donated enough to have my name in the credits. But I donated, but I got the DVD Blu-ray combo pack. That's actually the copy of it I have is the perk that I got from the crowdfunding for helping them to fund it. And yeah, I thought it was great. I loved the DS9 documentary. I thought it was really well done. I thought it was a Valentine to a show that's one of my favorite shows. It was good to see everybody again. It was good that they didn't shy away from the more controversial parts, from the sort of the darker, more difficult behind the scenes stuff. I thought it was really, really well done. And yeah, I liked the season 8 stuff. I like the writers room getting back together and pitching, trying to sort of come up with a possible 8th season. I thought some of it was interesting. Some of it I thought was, okay, whatever. But I liked a lot of it. I thought it was really cool, and overall, I thought it was a great documentary. Definitely. Joe McClory says, a follow up on policing and authority. Have you given much thought into how you would reform policing and how much authority a cop and the police in general should have? Should we remove qualified immunity? Should a cop have to justify each time they use force? Should the police be allowed to be the people in charge of supervising a group of people protesting their actions? These are examples. Feel free to ignore one you don't have thoughts on or talk about other things you might change. Yeah, well, I think we should definitely get rid of qualified immunity. I think police should have to justify when they use force, especially lethal force, but any kind of force. I think they should be required to provide a justification for that. Should police be allowed to be the people in charge of supervising a group of people protesting their actions? I mean, if the police aren't the ones supervising a protest, I don't know who else would be. I feel like that's kind of a difficult one to get around. But I will say this: I think there should be civilian oversight of police departments in all cases. I think that, for instance, I'm less worried about police supervising people who are protesting police, and more worried about the fact that in a lot of police departments, when the police department does something wrong, or when a member of the police department does something wrong, the people who investigate that are members of that same police department. That's a conflict of interest. Or if the police department is accused of some kind of more wide ranging problem, they conduct an internal review. Like that's the police department auditing itself. And most of the time, it turns out, no, everything's fine, or the problem was limited to these individuals who have been disciplined, and now everything's fine. So I think there should be non police civilian oversight over every police department in the country that has the power to hire and fire, that has the ability to impose discipline and to make binding decisions on the police department, so that if there is some kind of a corruption investigation or an abuse investigation, or a cop commits murder or uses some other kind of unjustifiable force, in addition to criminal prosecution where appropriate, that the investigation and the internal sort of departmental discipline is not handled by the police department itself, but by this independent civilian review board. I think that should be just a standard feature of police departments around the country. And I also think we should demilitarize and disarm police in most cases, if there is not a situation that specifically calls for a armed police response. I don't think cops should be carrying guns around. I think there's all kinds of stuff that we should do to reform police. And yeah, what the things you list are very high on that list. Absolutely, getting rid of qualified immunity, forcing cops to justify the use of force. I think those are all very necessary reforms. Training, focusing on de-escalation as opposed to using overwhelming force. Inculcating an attitude of service to police officers. Reminding them again and again and again, instilling in them the mindset that you are public servants. You are not the boss of the civilians on the street. You are there to protect them. You are there to enforce the law. You are not there to boss them around. You are not there to accuse them of things without basis. You're not there to sort of wave your dick in their faces. Like, that's not your job. You are to be subservient to them. You are to help them. You are to protect them. You are to enforce the law. That's your job. Not to be, big man on campus, right? That's not what you're supposed to be doing. So yeah, all of that. And finally, last question is from Lisa Garrison, who says, so far, Trump has managed to escape responsibility for the Capitol insurrection after the Democrats decided to go ahead with the political stunt of a second impeachment instead of letting the courts handle it. But there are still two investigations going on: the election tampering in Georgia and the financial crimes in New York. Do you think we will ever see Trump face any consequences for his crimes? Will we ever see him in jail? Probably not. I would very much like to say yes. I would be so happy if he even gets put on a criminal trial. That will thrill me. If he gets convicted and actually gets sent to prison, that would be amazing. I don't expect that to happen. But if it does, whew, it's party time. That would be wonderful. There's no reason that it shouldn't happen. I think it's actually really important that it does happen because it sets a precedent of you can't commit crimes against the United States of America and get away with it uh, just because you happen to be president, and then you leave office and people decide, oh well, he's not president anymore, so we might as well just not punish him for the things he did as president that we couldn't punish him for while he was president because of some bullshit legal guidance that the Justice Department has that says you can't prosecute a president, which is another thing we should get rid of. You should totally be able to indict and prosecute a sitting president, but whatever. So no, I unfortunately, I do not expect to see him face legal consequences for his crimes. No. But that is definitely not because such consequences are not warranted. I think they are most definitely warranted. Yeah. So anyway, that's it for the patron questions. Thank you all so much for being my patron. There we go. And now I will turn my attention to the live chat, and we will spend the rest of the time hanging out together in the live chats. Oh, John Burns with a super chat. Thank you very much. Says, have you watched any of the BBC series on Netflix called Line of Duty? I mentioned this series being a group of IA investigating cops. Did you like? I have not watched it yet. No, I still think that's an interesting idea. But no, I have not watched it yet. So sorry about that, but thank you for the super chat, my friend. Der Alta Trekkie says, Donald Duck, who's got the sweetest disposition? One guess. Guess who? David Colby says, Teeth was an excellent choice, and what I'd pick right after Chrome Hands. Well, I'm glad that we are kind of on the same page. Some random geek question, have you heard that Biden is continuing deportations? He stopped halting them and gave ICE the power to deport any non-citizen without clearance. Yes, I saw that. That's incredibly disappointing. I am completely in agreement with the ACLU as far as that goes, who said that it was a very upsetting reversal of his previous direction that he said he wanted to take things as far as immigration reform. I really hope that ends up not being the case. Like I hope that we do eventually see some improvement with that. So that they do halt deportations and that is rescinded. But yeah, that's disappointing. That's really, really, really disappointing. Let me see. Radical Bacon, did you ever think you'd be thankful that a guy named Smedley spoke up? I never thought I would know of a guy named Smedley. So yes, you're right. Geralta Trekkie, we're watching the series Continuum now. It's a relatively not that new show with lots of actors of the hey, I know that actor variety. Did you watch that show? I don't think I've ever watched Continuum, no. Emerald Lion says, who has a better sense of humor, anarchists or communists, or neither? Most of the anarchists I know have a pretty good sense of humor. So I guess on that basis, on my purely anecdotal evidence, I guess I would say anarchists. But I don't know. Maybe they were. I mean, no casting no aspersions on the senses of humor of commies, but And another one from Deralta Trekkie says, I watched the trailer of the Snyder Cut, and I have to say this shit looks bad, like really bad. Why do people still like it? That's exactly what I asked when I watched it. Oh, hi, Dana. Dana did make it in for a quick visit. Good to see you. Yeah, I had the same question, Deralta Trekkie. I had the exact same question. Why would anybody want to see this? It looked so dour and depressing and boring. And when they put the trailer up on all the different channels, like reposted it, and all of the thumbnails for the Snyder Cut, it was always they were all like stills of black suit Superman with like his eyes glowing red from the heat vision, and he had like a scowl or a frown or making a mean face or whatever. And I'm just looking at that going, who the fuck, like, why is this? What about this version of Superman is remotely compelling to people? Like, who thinks of Superman and thinks of a dude in a black suit with like an angry look on his face, about ready to burn a hole in somebody with his heat vision? Like, how is that your Superman? What has gone wrong in your life? How broken are you as a person if that is a Superman that you see that and you go, oh boy, I can't wait to see that? Come on. Yeah, it looks terrible. It looks terrible. Um, Donald Paluga, yes. Hey, no spoilers for anybody, but yes. Um, uh, 255 AD, what would political parties be about if not whether to be left or right wing? I mean, I guess technically there would be a there will be a right wing and a left wing party. If it was the Democrats and the and like, you know, the leftist party, then I guess relatively speaking, the Democrats would be the right wing party. But when I say right wing, I'm speaking specifically of like what is thought of as far right or right wing politics, you know, conservative politics. Um, Not necessarily speaking relatively, but speaking of the ideology that is described by those terms. So yeah, but I guess you're right. If there were a two party system, yes, one of them would be the party further to the right and would be the right wing party, and the other one would be the left wing party. But you know, that's not quite what I was getting at there. But I guess you're right. Joe McClory says, if fans were able to find stuffed animals identical to the ones that you no longer have access to, would you consider bringing them back to Stuffing Friends? No, no, that's not the agreement that Ashley and I have. It's not just about her retaining ownership of the actual animals. It's about her helping me to create those characters and not wanting to dishonor her contribution to the show and wanting to respect her wishes after our separation and not have those characters in the show. So no, that has nothing to do with it. Um, Toronto Trekkie says, how do we evolve from I'm working for money to I work to better myself? And how do we get rid of the assholes who are saying, hey, I have the money, so I'm worth more than you? Well, if you figure that out, if you figure that out, you let me know, okay? Um, Let me see. Oh, Daryl Lett says, being that you are a Billy Joel fan, what's your take on the career of the late record producer Phil Ramone? I mean, his career was fantastic. You know, he contributed to the you know, the music of some of my absolutely favorite people. I mean, not just Billy Joel, but you know, God, who else did he? The Beatles and like Elton John and God, I don't. A lot of people, like a lot of some of my favorite musicians from my youth. So I mean, I have to give him a lot of credit for that for sure. Um, Super chat from Eric Allen. Oh, Steve, pancakes or waffles? Gotta go pancakes. No disrespect to waffles at all. I love waffles, but if I have to choose, I gotta go pancakes. I got because those are what I was raised on. I was raised on pancakes. Waffles were something we had every once in a while. Pancakes we had like all the time when I was a kid. Um, Summer Name Geek asks, when are me and Varjak doing another Pierre the Chef? I don't know. Hi, Varjak, by the way. We should, I mean, I do want to do one at some point. I'm not sure exactly when, though. Super chat from John Burns, who says, Ukraine challenges European soccer's pandemic rules in court. I'm not surprised as soccer matches have been played in Spain and Italy. Okay, well, thanks for the update. And thanks for the super chat. Toronto Trekkie asks, Do you think that Pennyworth, Gotham, or the Arrowverse shows are better than Titans? I have not watched Pennyworth, but Gotham and the Arrowverse shows are much better than Titans. Yes. Um, Jacob Monroe, yes, March 7th, Exploding Barbed Wire. I am not that excited about that match because I do not really care for matches like that. And I didn't really like the Moxley Omega the lights out match where it was like a super hardcore match where they like suplexed each other into like a barbed wire thing. I didn't like that match. It's not my kind of wrestling. Like I just think it's boring. So I'm not really looking that actually made me less interested in the match. And I haven't been a huge fan of the Kenny Omega Impact stuff either. It just hasn't interested me. I just don't really care. I mean, I like Kenny Omega. I like the Good Brothers. It's nice to see the Good Brothers on Dynamite, and I think their stuff has been okay. But the storyline of like the Impact invasion, and that's just I could not care less about any of that. I feel like that's just been a huge waste of time, and I really don't think AEW has gotten anything from that at all. The New Japan stuff is interesting. It was cool seeing Kenta. Like seeing Kenta was awesome. And I'm looking forward to seeing Moxley's match with Kenta for the IWGP US title. And in theory, I'm interested in seeing Kenny Omega and Moxley wrestle again. But the exploding deathmatch thing, that's not my thing. I'm just not interested in that. I mean, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to order the pay per view and watch it. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not like hyped about that match really. 255 AD says, so you meant you don't want a borderline fascist party? Yeah, pretty much. That's a good way to put it. John Byrne says, is minimum wage a form of regulated capitalism? I suppose you could look at it that way, yeah. And I have no problem with it. I think capitalism should be regulated. And just right above that, Dorota Trekkie says, question from one auteur de fanfic to another. How do you make sure that Soups sounds as authentic as possible and doesn't go out of character? How many Superman episodes did you watch for preparation? It's funny. I was talking to Dana about this a couple of days ago when we were discussing the story. Um, um, when I was writing the story that I'm going to read next week, I had, and sometimes when I write Superman, I have like a particular Superman in mind. And for most of the story that I was writing that I'm going to share, and there's a lot of Clark in it. There's more Clark in it than Superman, but the same sort of the same mindset applied. I was mostly thinking of the Christopher Reeve Superman from the movies. It's not exactly that voice. He's not exactly the same as the Christopher Reeve Superman, but he's sort of like the Christopher Reeve Superman and the Christopher Reeve Clark, just a little loosened up, not quite as, you know, as severe as Chris Reeves Clark was. Not as much of like a cartoon character, but a similar kind of like when something funny happens, when there's a little bit of a comic moment, sort of imagine Christopher Reeves Superman in that moment. Like that's kind of where I was going for it. So I just try to imagine, you know, a Superman that I like, that I think fits the tone of this story, and I try to write to that. And I've been a Superman fan for my whole life. I've seen so much stuff with Superman in it. I don't really have to prepare. I don't really have to watch something to get into the voice. I kind of have the voice. But I do things like that. Like I listen to dialogue in my head in like a Christopher Reeve Superman voice or a Christopher Reeve Clark voice, and I think, is that what I want? Does that sound right? And I kind of go that way with it. Um, Radical Bacon says, I'm building a map for D&D and I'm naming a town after you. There's no adventures there, just lots of trees to climb. That's wonderful. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Um, 255 AD, did you try to buy the stuffed animals from Ashley? No, that was never the issue. That was never the issue. It was about Ashley not wanting to participate in the show anymore and me honoring those wishes. It has nothing to do with who actually has physical custody of the animals. Or buying the characters, or no, that never came up. That never came up. CMAC asks, have you and Jason worked out how Baby will appear when Ensign's log jumps to TNG? Yes. Yes. Um, let me see. Geraldo Trekkie asks, how did you come up with the storyline of Pittman, and will there be a follow-up? This is referring to the Ask a Professional YouTuber video I put up on Monday. That the Pittman was just a name I sort of picked. There's a little bit of a running gag in that video where I say, Pittman, that's an interesting name. And then every other character, every other person who asks a question has a way weirder, more interesting name than Pittman. And that's just sort of a weak little gag in the video that I came up with. And Pittman's just a name that I thought of. And doesn't really mean anything. It's just, the name that I came up with. And but the storyline is actually based not on something that happened to me, but on loosely based on something that happened when I was in high school, where somebody brought a knife to school and ended up getting kicked out of school. So I just sort of took that and changed it around and applied it to myself. So the story is not true because it didn't happen to me. It didn't happen the way it's told in the video, but it did happen to someone that I knew in high school. And no, there will not be a follow-up of that particular story, but I am going to do more videos in that format. I've written another one already it has nothing to do with the Pittman thing. It's the same bit of me answering fake questions and then things going completely off the rails. So there will be more videos in that format, but no more of the Pittman storyline. No, that was just a one-time deal. Super chat from John Burns, who says, speaking of regulating capitalism, from Robert Reich, should members of Congress be disallowed from owning stocks? I think yeah, why not? Surely should. And also super chat from Jacob Monroe. What was your reaction to 62-year-old Sting taking a power bomb? I was surprised because I know that back issues, I think, were what caused Sting to retire. I was worried. But he seems okay. So I was relieved, but I was a little worried at first because I thought it was going to be a thing where they were like Cage was going to get ready to lift him and then someone was going to run in and break it up, but he actually got him up and powerbombed him. And it was just a pretty basic flat back bump. So I don't think there was a whole lot that could have hurt Sting, but I know that his back was the reason he retired. So I was a little worried. Yeah, I was a little worried, but he seems okay, Um, Some random geek. No, I have never listened to Behind the Bastards from Robert. I had actually never even heard of it until that question earlier. Um, Lisa says, speaking of Japan, are you following the latest Dragon Ball Super manga? They are doing a cool space opera thing. No, I'm not. I'm not. I haven't. I've never followed that. Um, 255 AD says, for anarchism or any secular ideology to be correct, you don't have to accept any supernatural claims. Is that an important difference from religion? Yeah, I guess. Sure. But I mean, it can be, it can be something that I don't find plausible for other reasons. There's plenty of stuff that has no supernatural element to it at all that I still find very implausible or very far fetched. Um, Oh, Angus, I saw this question earlier and I was going to answer it and then I got distracted by something else. I have not followed Asuka because I don't follow WWE anymore. So I have not followed WWE at all since 2016. But um, and I honestly, I haven't seen a lot of female Japanese wrestlers other than those who have worked AEW recently because I haven't gotten to watch that much Japanese wrestling either, just as it's just sort of a time thing. But yeah, the Japanese wrestlers that I've seen, the Japanese women that I've seen in AEW have been terrific. I mean, I think Hikaru Shida is awesome. She's really grown on me. I first saw her and I was like, oh, okay, she's okay. I'm like a huge fan of hers now. I think she's really good. I think Riho and who was it? It was Riho and Serena Deeb had a really, really good match on Dynamite this week. It was absolutely fantastic. Um, and Yuki Oh, what's her name? Yumi Nakazaka, is that her name? I can't think. I'm butchering her name, I'm sure, but she's really the magical girl. Um, she's really good. It was cool to see Aja Kong. It was, she's like a legend. It was cool to see her in AEW. So I'm a fan of some Japanese women wrestlers when I do get to see them. But unfortunately, I have not followed Asuka because she's in WWE and I haven't been watching WWE. Um, Let me see. There's another super chat from John Burns who says, "Can you remember a time that capitalism was completely unregulated in the United States after Washington took office in any way, shape, or form?" It was mostly unregulated for most of the 19th century, if I'm correct. I mean, at least there was no serious regulation of it, not at the federal level. The unregulated capitalism was the norm in the United States for quite a while. Um, I think I believe I'm correct in that. Anybody who knows better can correct me in the chat, please. Um, oh, John Burns, more entertaining interview, Flair or Piper? When he was on, I would say Piper. Yeah, I mean Ric Flair was a fantastic interview. Ric Flair's promos, especially toward the end of his career, tended to sort of be the same. Flair just kind of did the same thing, and he did it really well, and it was entertaining. But he just kind of, you know, did the same thing. But when Piper was really on, I think Piper was better than Flair for sure. Um, Thomas Head says, "What do you think of Ron Reagan not afraid of burning in hell?" I guess that's how I feel too. I'm not afraid of it because I don't think it's there. Like, so I guess I kind of agree with him. Mighty B says, "Hey Steve, what Star Trek show are you most looking forward to seeing?" At this point, of the ones that are coming up, probably Strange New Worlds. I'm interested in seeing another season of Discovery. I really like Discovery, but I'm interested in seeing Strange New Worlds. Do, 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 Emerlion says, "Have you watched The City and the City, and what did you think of it compared to the book?" I don't. I don't think so. The City and the City, and compared to the book, I don't think I've watched that or read the book. 255 AD says, "The Nazi who plays video games. Were you thinking of a specific person, or is the joke that it could be any one of like 200 different asswipes?" Yes, that is the joke. The joke is that, I mean, I said the question was, "Who is your least favorite YouTuber?" And I said, "I don't know. Who's that Nazi who plays video games?" Yes, because I could be talking about one of any number of people. Because there are so many Nazis who play video games on YouTube. Um, Lisa Garrison, I saw this. Yes, according to TrekMovie.com, Billy Campbell is reprising his role as the outrageous Okona. Yes, I saw that. That is interesting because that is not a well-regarded episode. So it's really interesting that they are bringing back that character and that they're getting Billy Campbell to come back and play him again. And not only is it interesting because of the character and the fact that they're pulling from a not very well-liked episode, but like it kind of throws bullshit on the on the claim by a lot of like disgruntled fans who don't like the new shows. Like, oh, the people making the shows now don't understand. They've never even watched Star Trek. Motherfucker, if they're bringing back the outrageous Okona, somebody in that writer's room has been watching some Star Trek. Okay? If somebody pitched, "Hey, I got a great idea for a show. Let's have an episode of our children's cartoon series that brings back the character of the outrageous Okona. And let's get Billy Campbell in to voice the character, to reprise the role." Somebody in that, and then somebody said, "Yes, okay, let's do that." Somebody on that show has been watching Star Trek. It's such a bullshit, like angry nerd argument that they say, like, "Oh, the people making Star Trek, they never even watched Star Trek." Motherfucker, yes, they have. Um, Yeah, 255 AD. They're not Nazis. They're just concerned about ethics in game journalism. That sounds familiar. Yeah. That's great. Angus, how to say Maryland? Just like I just said it. Maryland. Well, we say it Maryland. We don't say Maryland. We say Maryland. I don't know of anybody actually from here who says Maryland. And if we did hear somebody say it, pronounce it as Maryland, we would kill them. Oh, Angus, is Diner your state? Yes, Diner is set and was shot in Baltimore. So yes, Diner is a Maryland movie for sure. Directed by Barry Levinson, who is from Baltimore and has set several of his movies in Baltimore. And Baltimore also the home of John Waters, who is also still lives in Baltimore and has set many of his films in Baltimore as well. Yeah, Nihilus Kriek says they aren't adhering to my strict definition of canon, therefore they never watch Star Trek. Jason, you do not say Maryland. You are a goddamn liar. You do not say Maryland. And please, if you ever come here, do not say Maryland while you are here. While you are within the borders of Maryland, do not say Maryland. Or they will kill you. I would not participate. I would abstain because you are my friend. You are my dear, dear friend. I would never, ever, ever participate in the act of killing you. But if you say Maryland here, you will be murdered. They will kill you. They will never find your body. No one will be brought to justice. Everybody will kill you, and then they'll act like they didn't even see it. They'll pretend that it never happened. You will not only lose your life, there will never be justice. Your family will never have closure. You will be vanished from the face of the earth, never to have your name spoken again. I entreat you. Do not come to Maryland and say Maryland. Do not, my dear friend. You're totally going to say it, aren't you? If you ever come here, you're totally going to say it. God damn it. Lisa, yes, I loved Homicide: Life on the Street. I have the box set of Homicide. I have every episode of Homicide on DVD. It's one of my favorite shows. I loved Homicide. And yes, produced in and set in Baltimore. Yeah, for sure. And I think Barry Levinson was an executive producer on that too, wasn't he? Yeah. And I know he directed an episode or two as well. Mighty B, do I play any video games? Okay, so Summer Geek, I am liking Young Justice. Yes, I am liking Young Justice more. It was for most of the first season, I was just kind of, this is okay. I guess I'll keep watching it. And by the end of the first season, I thought it was getting pretty good. And then I'm 3 episodes into season 2 now, and the time jump I thought was really cool. And yeah, it's a good show. I'm liking Young Justice a lot. Thanks. No, what was the other question that I was about? Mighty B asked, do I play any video games? So here's a story. This just happened yesterday. Okay. So as a rule, I don't play video games. I do have a Steam account and I have purchased a handful of games over the years. And I don't know what compelled me to do it, but I got a wild hair up my ass yesterday. And I thought, I want to try that Star Trek Bridge Crew game that came out a few years ago. And it came out, and it was like a VR game, but then they released a version of it that you could just play on a PC without a VR rig. So I got the game. It was like $30 and I downloaded it. I played it for 5 minutes and I uninstalled it and I got a refund. I was going through like the tutorial of it and sort of learning like the interface and how to do things. And I just had a moment where I was like, this is so boring. I'm never going to play this game. Like, I don't know why I got this. I'm just not going to play this game. And I uninstalled it and I got my money back. So that's my video game story. I'm just not a gamer. I'm just not. I have a couple of games on my computer that I play maybe once every couple years. Every once in a great while I might get an itch to play like an old, like, first person shooter like that I had when I was a little, like a teenager. They have you go on the Internet Archive, they have a software archive now where you can play in the browser. You can play like Wolfenstein and Doom 2, I think they have, and a couple other similar games. I'll play those maybe for half an hour or something, just, if I'm feeling nostalgic, and that's it. Like, I'm not technically I do play video games from time to time, but they are not something that really interests me on any consistent basis at all. I play them, and I very quickly I get bored, and I just think I'm just going to do something else. So no, I don't really play video games as a habit, or as a regular hobby. Um, Jason Balmer is a Balmer is an acceptable pronunciation of Baltimore. Yes, Balmer. And Norfolk. Yes, Norfolk. Norfolk is the proper pronunciation of Norfolk. Norfolk. Um, Super chat from John Burns. Thank you, my friend. Says, why would the captain of a military ship worry about the economic system in that society? People mention how the economic system isn't described, so it must be this or that. But do you expect that Picard would be destitute? Um, you mean, like, would he be destitute if they had a different economic system, I guess? I mean, I suppose as a captain, he would be well compensated if it was that kind of an economy, I guess, if that's what you're. Hi, Chris Yassity is here. Hi, Chris. I didn't even see you here. You're welcome for me introducing you to Jesse Gender. Jesse's awesome. Um, 255 AT says, how do Maryland natives feel about being called Merry Men? We're fine with it. Um, Oh, Yannick Muller, this is a great question. I rewatched the original Twin Peaks. The Wyndham Earl storyline is rough. What part of Twin Peaks do you not like, or what controversial part do you like? Um, I think after the resolution of the Laura Palmer mystery, there's really no need to keep watching. I mean, I like the rest of season 2 because I like the characters, but after the Laura Palmer resolution, the show really feels like you're just hanging out with the characters, and there's really nothing. There's no compelling story like the Wyndham Earl thing. I never gave a shit about that. The storylines for the supporting characters got even more outlandish and absurd than they had been, to the point where it got cartoonish. Like it went beyond like the sort of Lynchian dreamscape, absurd, abstract world, the surreal sense that David Lynch's work has. And it just became kind of oddball and cartoony. And it really, really, really takes a creative nosedive in season 2. I mean, the first season is great. After that, it goes downhill, and it really drops off a cliff after the Laura Palmer resolution. So anything after that, I feel like it's permissible just to not even watch after that point. Um, Radical Bacon, would I ever deck myself out in Maryland flag regalia? Probably not, but we do have the best flag. I think the Maryland flag is the best flag in the world, like in the world, not just state flag. I think the Maryland flag is my favorite flag of any flag that I've ever seen. Chrisiosity, can I pronounce Worcester and Leicester? Is that right? Is it Leicester? Worcester and Leicester, right? That's correct. Lisa Garrison, did I watch the Twin Peaks reboot? Yes, I thought it was excellent. I really liked it a lot. It was very different. I think you have to sort of get into the headspace that it is not, you can't expect it to be the same as Twin Peaks, the original series. Like, it's very different. It's the same characters, or some of the same characters, and it's sort of built on the same world or in the same continuity, but it's way Lynchier than the original Twin Peaks was. Like, it's full on David Lynch. I really liked it a lot. Yeah. Super chat from Thomas Head. Thank you very much. Says, I agree with you and Ron. Yes, we do need more freedom from religion in government and life. Whatever happened to separation of church and state? Think Pong and Pac-Man were the best. I was never a big Pac-Man fan either, to be honest. But yeah, I agree with you. Separation of church and state should be. I mean, I feel like religious people should want that too. You know, a secular society does not mean that that there is no religion in society. It means that people of all religions and no religion are treated equally and are given the same opportunities, and no religion is allowed to inscribe itself or its tenets into the law and impose itself on other people. That's what secular society means. In a truly equal, fair secular society, all types of religions would be able to thrive. You know, so I mean, a religious person or a religious group should want a secular society just as much as an atheist. Joe McClory says, "Wow, that is a take on the Maryland state flag. That take on the Maryland state flag is a lot." I agree, but it's a beautiful flag. It deserves it. It deserves it. It's a beautiful flag. It's the best flag. I don't care. I don't care what anybody says. It's the best flag. Jason, it is not a heraldic vomitous mess. It is gorgeous. It is a beautiful pattern of color, and it's magnificent. And yeah, how dare you even bring up the California flag? That piece of shit. That piece of toilet paper. Oh, what are we going to do for the California flag? Let's just put a fucking bear on it and write the name of the state. There, done. We got that sorted. There's the flag taken care of. It's a shit flag. Maryland flag is so much better. Maryland flag is so much better. David Colby says, would your so-called secular society accept my religion of baby eating-ism? Are you actually eating the babies, or is it more like, you know, when Catholics say they're eating the body of Christ? Is there like a baby eating transubstantiation that happens? Or are you actually eating babies? I feel like that's a sticking point. Super chat from John Burns says, people can read on the internet about the religious wars, and I'm certain that those white privileged who wrote the Constitution were aware as well. Okay, yeah. Eric, yes, you need to develop a new flag for your Kingdom Allentown. Absolutely. I would love to see it. I would love to see it. Carl Eusebius, yeah, but can you put a mutant two-headed bear on the flag of the new Maryland Republic? No, there will be no Maryland flag. There will be no new flag. The Maryland flag is perfect as it is. There will not, no, we will not be doing that. If there would, no, absolutely not. And, you know, if they want to, if the new California Republic people want to put their fucking two-headed bear on their shitty flag, then they should do it too. But it's not, you know. Yeah, David. Yeah, now it would have to be the transubstantiation. I think that's good. I think that's wise. Oh, some random geek. I'm going to have to look up the Washington state flag. Let me look up the Washington state flag. Oh, Jesus, that's awful. Oh, you poor people. Oh, that's worse. That's worse. The Washington state flag is worse than the California flag. Yeah. Yeah. The California state flag is a shitty flag, but the Washington flag is where, so the Washington state flag might be even worse than the Washington County flag. The Washington County, Maryland flag, which is the county that I live in, the Washington County, Maryland flag is a monstrosity that has a blue sky, a red line that eventually turns into a W, followed by a green lower part, and then there's George Washington's fucking head with some stars around him. It's an absolutely hideous flag. As much as I love the Maryland flag, I absolutely despise the Washington County flag. It's ugly as hell. But I think just on pure laziness of design, I think the Washington state flag is worse. It's literally just a picture of George Washington on like a green background. It's horrible. Some random geek, I am so sorry that your state has to have that flag. It's an awful flag. It's an awful flag. Jason says, for accuracy, the Maryland flag should be a picture of a front lawn with a Trump sign and a Confederate flag in a house window. How dare you? We are a blue state, my friend. Just because I happen to live in a very red section of it, and just because there are also red sections in central and southern Maryland, and actually the only reason we're a blue state is because of urban centers like the area near Washington, D.C. and Baltimore, that's beside the point. Land doesn't vote, people vote, and most of the people in Maryland make it a blue state. So it's a blue state. So you shut your mouth with your Trump signs and your Confederate flags, even though that literally describes many of the houses in my neighborhood. You keep your mouth shut about that. Super chat from John Burns, who says Washington's on the Washington state flag. Why? Exactly. He's already in the name. Why do we need a picture of him? Chrisiosity says, what is the best Barry Manilow song? What's the shortest one? I guess if you get drunk enough, Copacabana is okay. But I'm, whatever the one is going to be over in the shortest amount of time. That's the best Barry Manilow song. Emerline, exactly. Why would you have a flag you can't draw on a piece of paper? Exactly. That should be, I think it is, like, for good flag design. Like, that's one of the basic principles of good flag design. It should be a simple design that you can not only draw easily, but also that would be recognizable from a long distance away. So it doesn't have like a photograph or a lot of words on it. It's just it's a bright, crisp, clear, easily recognizable symbol. Super chat from Misha Sumra, who says, do you play any tabletop RPGs? If so, which ones? No, I do not. I am not that. I don't want to every time I get asked this question, I try to be diplomatic about it because I don't want it to come across like I'm shitting on somebody else's hobby, because I know a lot of people play tabletop RPGs and have a great time. I find the idea of it makes me want to go take a nap. It does not interest me at all. The idea of it just sounds incredibly boring to me. Every time I have seen people play tabletop RPGs or I hear people talk about it, it just seems incredibly dull. It's just not something I'm into. But that's me. So if I don't let me, I hope that doesn't come across as me taking a dump on something you like to do. Because if that's what you like to do, then more power to you. But no, I don't play them. I'm not interested in them. They seem just incredibly boring to me. Radical Bacon, would I play D&D with Jason? No, I would not. Der Alta Drege wants me to look at the North Rhine-Westphalia flag. Okay, let me look at this flag. Now, since I'm giving flag critiques, let me see what this flag looks like. Okay, that's a good flag. That's a good flag. I can dig that. It's nice and simple. Even the version that has the seal on it, is it's not that complicated. I think that's a good flag. Yeah. The North Carolina state flag is good too, Jacob. Yes, the North Carolina state flag is a good flag. I'll give you that. Does Kevin Logan know I'm angling for his flag tear? Am I? Is he like a big defender of his? What does he have his own idea of what a favorite flag is? I guarantee you, whatever Kevin's favorite flag is, it ain't shit compared to the Maryland flag. It ain't shit compared to the Maryland flag. Um, yes, Steve Schmalik. Apparently, it is fun with flags. Yes. Kevin loves flags. Yeah. Well, then he should love the Maryland flag because it's the best one. Angus, do I understand Adric versus Wesley? I have no idea what you're talking about. Sir Random Geek says it would have been better to have a $1 bill with Washington on it as the Washington state flag. Yeah, that would have been. Yeah, I mean, you might as well, right? They put about as much thought into designing the flag you got. Just make it just say, hey, let's just put a dollar bill on it. It's got Washington's face on it. Eric says, speaking of flags, we should really bring back semaphore just for shits and giggles, I guess, just for fun. Okay. Thomas Head says a super chat. Thank you very much. Says shame on Ted Cruz. He should be spanked and also maybe expelled from Congress or at least defeated in his next election. Something like that. Yeah. Yeah, Varjak, Pennsylvania's flag is okay. It's not like, I mean, it's not like the coat of arms is a little complicated, like there's a lot going on there. I don't think it really lends itself to a good flag, but I mean, it's not like awful or anything. Yeah, it's definitely better than Washington and California. It's a shit ticket compared to the Maryland flag. I just, I want to make that absolutely clear. John Burns, another super chat, says next month Canada starts its men's World Cup qualifying run. Here's hoping we last through September and the octagonal where we join Mexico and the U.S. Okay, well, good luck to you. Mighty B, hey Steve, what about Dragon Quest or Heroes of Might and Magic RPG? I don't think I've ever played either of those. No. I don't even like Legend of Zelda. It feels too RPG-ish to me. It feels too much like Dungeons and Dragons. I'm just like, no, I don't think so. Geralta Trekkie, while we're on the topic of flags, what do you think about the Federation flag? I like the Federation flag. I think the Federation flag is a good design. Very simple, very straightforward. Got the laurel wreaths and the map and the stars and stuff. I like the Federation flag. Yes, Sereno Geek, exactly. I don't like high fantasy. I wouldn't say I hate it. I'm just not interested in it. I just find it dull. Like as soon as I, and it's nothing against anybody who ever asks the question, right? Like Radical Bacon's one of my favorite people in the world. Jason, like my best friend ever. No matter who it is, as soon as Dana, it doesn't matter. As soon as I hear the words D&D, I immediately lose interest in whatever they're talking about. I just don't care, And with like high fantasy, like literature and movies, like if they start talking about like elves and orcs and shit, I just my interest in the conversation craters at that moment. I just don't fucking care. Misha Sumer says the only valid PA flag is the one with gritty on it. There you go. Let's get gritty on the state flag for sure. Geralta Trekkie, do you remember the Golden Girls episode where Rose and Dorothy spot a UFO? I like that Rose is so positive about the possibility of alien life while Dorothy is more scared. I faintly remember that. Yes, I haven't watched that episode in a long time, but I do remember it sort of. Yes. Thomas had Ted Cruz is the Tony Stewart of politics. Lisa Garrison, have you ever liked any RPGs? Final Fantasy? No, I've never. I don't know. No. No, no. um, Mr. Nintendo Joe favorite Stephen King book. Actually, I think the only Stephen King book I have ever read, believe it or not, from start to finish is The Stand. And I like The Stand a lot, so I'll have to go with The Stand because it's the only one I've ever read, and I did enjoy it. So, um, Christiosity, you let Kevin know about my challenge. Is it a challenge? It's not a challenge. I'm just stating a fact. The Maryland flag is the best one. The Maryland flag is the best one. I wouldn't wipe my ass with any other flag. The Maryland flag is it. Um, Radical Bacon. Yes, I have. Yes, I have. The Roman Mars's TED talk about vexillology. Yes, I have. Actually, not surprisingly, I have thought of that. I was thinking of that earlier when we started talking about flags. Yeah, and if anybody has not watched that, it's a really cool talk about like the principles of flag design. Yeah. Um, Funk, yeah. How about Castlevania? I played Castlevania a little bit in the early to mid '90s, I guess, when I had my NES, my original like 8-bit Nintendo. I played Castlevania on that, and I remember enjoying it at the time. I tried to play one of the classic Castlevania games last year, like one of the Nintendo ones. I got a Raspberry Pi that has a bunch of old video games on it, which again, like I played for the first week that I got it, and then I just completely lost interest. Like I keep trying video games, and I remember, oh, I don't really like this, and it just sort of I just leave it sit for however long. But yeah, I tried to play one of the original Castlevanias that I remember really enjoying as a kid. Last year, relatively recently, and I played it for I played it for like 15 minutes, and I completely got bored with it. And I was just like, oh, forget this, you know. So I mean, at the time, I guess I liked it to a point, but not really. Um, Angus says in Scotland we have friggin' unicorns as our animal of choice. How does Baltimore match? Well, we got the Oriole, which is a beautiful bird. Oh, so yeah. Um, Throughout the trek, he says, so we landed on Mars yesterday. Do we think we might actually have the possibility of going out into space after that? There's always the possibility. I hope we do. I hope that in my lifetime I get to see people actually land on Mars. That would be really nice. I really hope so. But yeah, I don't know. It's a matter of will. It's not a matter of technology. It's a matter of do we want to do it bad enough? You know, it's not a matter of money either because we can afford to do it if we want. Yeah. Last question, and then I'm going to wrap up. And it is from Steve Schmaling, who says, "What did you think of the MST3K revival? I really liked it. I thought that Jonah was a good host. I thought that the only thing I thought that the voices for Tom and Crow were a little similar. Sometimes it was hard when they're in the theater. It was hard to tell at first which one of them was talking. That was really my only major critique of it. But I mean, some of the episodes of the revival I thought were absolutely hysterical. The Cry Wilderness episode is to me is a classic. It holds up with some of the best episodes of the old show. The Mac and Me episode is great. There are some really good shows in the revival. So I liked it a lot. John Burns super chat says, remember a Phil Donahue show with Harlan Ellison and the question centered around aliens. Harlan was great. Enjoy the concept of aliens existing, but here on Earth we have challenges we need to focus on. Well, yeah, I mean, we shouldn't be waiting for the aliens to come help us. I do think we can afford to focus on the challenges we have here on Earth and also pursue a vigorous program of human spaceflight. I don't think that is an either or proposition. Jason asks, tell people what you do to fill the hours of gnawing dread since I hate video games. I make YouTube videos and I watch TV. Anyway, that's it for the questions, everybody. Thank you so much. I'm going to wrap this up now. I have a couple of announcements. First of all, Well, let me go ahead and do the links first. So if you dig what I do here on YouTube, you can support the channel through Patreon, patreon.com/Steve Shives. Patronage of any amount gets you the ability to submit a question ahead of time for Ask Away, and I'll answer those questions first before I get to the live chat. So if that is something that is of interest to you, or if you just want to help me out and help me continue making videos on this channel, patreon.com/Steve Shives is the way you do that. Also, don't forget that I am on a couple of podcasts created by the brilliant Jason Harding, who is in the chat right now, Opinionville. I co-host Late Seating, the movie review podcast alongside Jason, where we look at classic films and give them a fresh review and decide if they deserve their reputation, whatever their reputation happens to be. Our most recent episode is our review of Dirty Dancing, which you can listen to right now. And also, I am on the Star Trek themed comedy podcast alongside Jason. And just this season, we were joined by Dana Cole. And that is, of course, the Ensign's Log. And we have just finished the 3rd season of the Ensign's Log. The final episode of season 3 of the Ensign's Log is available for your listening pleasure. And I hope you listen to it, because we really worked hard on it, and it's really funny, and I'm really, really happy with how it turned out. And I can't wait for season 4. While I'm on the subject of the Ensign's Log, as you know, if you are a regular fan of the Ensign's Log, you know that at the end of the season, we like to do a live stream on my channel to sort of talk about the season and talk about the show and answer questions from listeners and stuff. We're going to do that again. This time it will be Jason and myself and Dana. All 3 of us who are on the show now will be together for the live stream. And the live stream will take place on this very YouTube channel in 2 weeks. On March the 5th, it will be taking the slot of what would be the next Ask Away. So instead of the next Ask Away in 2 weeks, it will be the Ensign's Log live Q&A stream with me and Jason and Dana. And again, March 5th, starting at 6 p.m. Eastern time. So I already scheduled the event. It should be available to see on my channel page if you want to go there and go ahead and set yourself a reminder for it so you don't miss it. I will mention it between now and then, of course, as well. But yeah, that's coming up on March 5th. Super exciting. Can't wait for that. Also, don't forget, I mentioned it earlier. I want to mention it again. On Thursday next week, there will be a special live stream on this channel where I read the first half of my new Superman fanfic. So tune in for that as well if you want to hear me read some fanfic that I wrote. Also, on Monday is the next conversation stream. My guest will be Marissa McCool. Don't forget, Wednesday, Dana and I will be back for the next Trek Reluctantly. We will be watching Deep Space Nine, Episode 8, Season 1, The Passenger. And then a week from tonight, next Friday, Dana and I will be doing our book series on Ursula Le Guin's The Dispossessed, and we'll be talking about Chapter 9 of that book. So that is, and also Wednesday is another Trek Reluctantly video, or another Trek Actually video about General Chang in tribute to the late Christopher Plummer. So that's all coming up in the next couple of weeks, and look forward to that. I hope that you all enjoy the videos, and I hope you enjoyed this live stream. It was cool to hang out with you all as usual. Thank you so much for the questions. Thank you so much for being wonderful, lovely people. And have a good weekend. Have a good night. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you next time. Bye, everybody. Oh, and don't forget the charity links. I almost forgot. Some random week is going to kill me. Don't forget the charity links linked in the description. Help out some friends of ours who need a helping hand. And don't forget Jacob's GoFundMe as well, which is linked in the description. Okay, that's all now. Bye for real, everybody. Take care.